then he came over, not yesterday, the day before. He ran out of oil, so he came over and got my gas can that he put juice on. And I said, did you get coffee?
I got it.
Oh, okay. And he goes,
I don't know what happened. I just copied and pasted the streaming stuff into Zoom again, and then it worked.
all right.
So do you want to keep this open?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so then, I mean, I'm just showing you down here. I just make sure that it's muted.
Oh, okay, and that stays muted through the whole meeting?
Yep.
So that way it doesn't pick us up talking in the room?
Right.
Okay.
And that's
the outside world.
because that actually happened and the feedback was horrible, but it's only feedback when you speak because you're in the room with it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, right. You what?
Should I have earphones on?
Yeah, you should have your headphones on.
Does it have a mic?
Yeah, it has a microphone.
Okay.
Switch earphones here.
Yeah, everybody that's gonna be in the room has to have.
Wicked mad about that. But she was, I don't know why she's mad about that. Yeah. Well, it'd be different if you come staggering in after. Exactly, that's just the thing. It's bedtime to have them at. I'm going. Good. See you, Mike.
See you later.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
How's everyone doing today?
I am, but I don't know if the senator.
Good. It's nice and sunny outside. Can't complain.
That's what I heard.
Happy times.
I think you'll be okay. Julie's on. Yellow hand is up there to speak,
Right.
Or they'll just wave at you like.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just got a message from Maddie. She's a little bit behind, but she'll catch up with us.
Avery is letting everybody in. She is. Yeah, right now. Yeah, she's admitting everybody in, so. All right, okay. Okey-doke.
Never realized how small my office was till I actually had to work from it.
Yeah. I thought I had that all knocked, and then my granddaughter moved in with me, and so I had to carve out a space. And right now, this is the cleanest spot in my house, is behind me, and it's only because there's nothing behind me. Everything else is.
It's actually a really beautiful painting, Anne. I've noticed it a couple times now. What is it?
Thank you. It belonged to my mother-in-law. Her friend painted it for her.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. It's
It's, oh, horse and carriage.
Isn't it amazing? I just
Yeah.
love the colors.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Where's Don Marine when you need him?
Exactly.
Sorry, Avery. I think I just let Suzanne in. You were supposed to do that, weren't you?
No, I made you a co-host, so you can too.
Okay, cool. Good deal. All right, so we're waiting for Jeff and Ted and who else? Somebody remind me. Joe? Julie, you're on mute.
Sorry, Representative Bickford.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Suzanne brought a friend.
Oh, yes. Suzanne's friend attends many of our office meetings.
That's awesome.
This is what happens when you work at home. Gotta quiet it.
The bottom of the screen next to the breakout rooms icon is reactions. Someone can click. Okay. Reactions to raise hand. Okay.
Got a slow group this morning.
Avery or Mandy, maybe you could pull down that shade behind Senator Chipman. The light coming in through the window is creating a very bright background, so we can't even see his face at all.
He is the shadow.
I'm sorry, maybe he wanted it that way.
So, Julie, do we need quorum for orientation? Or can we start?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I was going to mention later on is that staff doesn't make any decision about procedural rules. That's up to the chairs.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything that relates specifically to meetings other than public hearings and work sessions, but it's your ruling. I don't,
Well,
did
yeah,
we
the-
ask people to let us know if they weren't coming, or?
I don't think we did, and this is our first meeting, so we can mention that, but I'm just reading the rules. It says a quorum must be present to start a meeting, and this is a meeting, so we should probably wait till we have 7 members. We'll wait a few more minutes.
We'll need to wait for Ted as well if we're following rules.
Yeah.
There's Maddie. Good morning.
Morning.
And I just texted Ted. No answer yet, though. So I just called Ted, but no answer.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. I mean, we can wait a few more minutes, but I don't know of anything in the rules that requires us to wait for him to be here. I mean, he knows that we were supposed to start at 9 o'clock, so I don't know.
Yeah.
We can maybe just wait a couple more minutes and then we'll just start, because there's other people that need to make presentations here, and I know we have one member that needs to leave at 10:30, so at 10
Yep.
o'clock, actually, we have one member that needs to leave at 10 o'clock.
Yep, exactly. So well, maybe we can get started perhaps with introductions. Does that
Yeah.
sound okay with everyone?
Yeah, that sounds good. So we'll get started, to just so everybody knows, people that may be watching online as well, that this is the first meeting of the Committee on Taxation for 2021. We're going to have a day of orientations. We'll start with introductions from members of the committee and ending with the House Chair and myself. So would we like to start with Representative Matlack?
Good morning. The usual introductions?
Yeah, just tell us your name and your district, what area you represent.
Certainly. My name is Ann Matlack. I represent House District 92, which includes the communities of Cushing, South Thomaston, St. George, Matinicus, Creehaven, and the Muscle Ridge Islands.
Excellent. Would you like to tell us just a couple things about yourself, since this is our first meeting? I guess that wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe we could do that as well. Just tell us, a couple things about what you do in your spare time, or.
Oh, certainly. Like I said, I represent District 92. This is my second term as the representative. Previously, I did other things such as being on school boards, town budget committee, county budget committee. I worked for someone who did maritime casualties for about 20 years, so I know about things like cabotage. This year, I'm lucky enough to have my granddaughter living with me. She lived in California for about 10 years, and she wanted to attend high school in person her senior year, so she's living with me, and we're trying to get used to that. So
Excellent.
That's me for now.
You're also chairing the Committee on State and Local Government?
Yes, I am. This will be my first term being on state and local government, and I will be the chair.
Excellent. Great. How about Representative Carmichael? I think you're muted, Representative Carmichael.
Good morning. Sorry about that.
Welcome.
This is I'm a freshman congressman, so I represent House District 137, which is parts of Hancock County, Penobscot County, and Washington County. It's about 13 towns. I won't go through all of them for you, but I'm a small businessman. I spent the last 35 years building a transportation business, and I've kind of passed the day-to-day operations of that on to my son, so that free me up to serve the people of Maine. That's what it. I got 4 kids and 10 grandkids, and I intend to spend some time with them as well.
That's great. Welcome.
Yeah,
Congratulations on your election. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Senator Daughtry?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Maddie Daughtry. I represent Senate District 24, which is Brunswick, Harpswell, Freeport, North Yarmouth, and Pownell. I'm also the Senate Chair of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs, so you'll see me jumping in and out sometimes. But luckily for now, it looks like our meetings don't fully overlap. It'll be my first time being on 2 committees. I'm pretty excited about. And then before I was a legislator, I'm a former photojournalist and wedding photographer. I ran my own media company for many years. And then coming up on 3 years ago, my partner and I opened Moderation Brewing in Brunswick. So my life outside of the legislature, I get to brew beer, and it's amazing getting to have a small business in my hometown. But I'm really excited to serve on taxation and get to know the policy area and work with all of you.
Excellent. Representative Sachs?
Good morning. My name is Melanie Sachs. I'm also a first-term legislator. So Meldon and Melanie are the two freshmen that you have on your committee. Thank you for having us. I represent House District 48, which is Freeport and Pownell. I was delighted to serve as an at-large counselor on the Freeport Town Council for 6 years, including chair and vice chair for 3 of those years. And I have a master's degree in social work, been a licensed clinical social worker for 25 years, but also now finishing up my postgraduate certificate in business data analytics. So if you want to say pivot, through UNH, through the MBA program, I have 2 classes left. Thanks so much for all of your welcoming information, and I look forward to serving with you all on this committee.
Great.
Excellent. Representative Gramlich?
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative Terry. My name is Lori Gramlich, and I represent House District 13, which is the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach. This is my 2nd term. I also am returning to a 2nd term on the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. I too am a social worker. I have a master's degree from University of New England and have been working in nonprofit public policy for the past 30 years in the state of Maine. I have also served on the Portland School Committee in the mid-2000s, where I chaired the Legislative Affairs Committee and the Policy Committee. I also work part-time for the University of Southern Maine. I am field coordinator for social work students and teach social welfare policy and overviews for field seminar. Oh, and during my advocacy years, I spent a significant amount of time in the Taxation Committee working, and Julie may remember from the old days, working on things like the Better Program and tax increment financing, and assuring that nonprofits weren't taxed insignificantly. So I do have a little bit of familiarity with the policy initiatives that will probably be taken up in this committee.
Excellent. Welcome. So I think that's that's all of the members that we have online here. We can welcome some other members as they join us. Representative Terry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Mo Terry. I represent District 26, which is the western side of Gorham. It's nice to actually be sitting in the western side of Gorham while I see you guys. It's great. This is my 3rd term on the tax committee and my 1st term as chair. So I beg forgiveness of snafus when they happen, because they'll happen. I have a small business here that I actually have right out of my home, a small food production business. So my the reason that I feel that I'm on the tax committee is because I represent small businesses like mine, like Representative Carmichael's, like Representative Daughtry's, and I think most of the businesses in Maine are small like ours. So I find myself thinking about that quite a bit, about small businesses, and of course the people that run them. So I'm really excited to be your chair this session, and like I said, I would appreciate some just a light touch if I say something that I shouldn't say. Thanks very much. I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Excellent. And I'm Senator Ben Chipman. I'm the Senate Chair of the Committee on Taxation, serving in my 2nd term now. Will be the 2nd term as chair of the committee. A little bit about myself. I represent District 27, which is part of the city of Portland. So it's the entire peninsula, downtown area, and a few neighborhoods off the peninsula, such as Woodford's Corner, Back Cove, and East Deering. I also represent 9 islands off the coast of the city that are part of the city of Portland, including Great Diamond Island, Cliff Island, and Peaks Island. I'm entering my 3rd term in the Senate, and previous to that, I served 3 terms in the Maine House. And prior to that, I served on the Portland Charter Commission. When I'm not in the legislature, I work as a real estate closing agent. I also own and manage a couple of apartment buildings where I live. in Portland. And I grew up in the Brunswick area and Senator Daughtry's area of Brunswick and Harpswell, where most of my family still lives now. And I've lived in Portland for the last 18 years or so. So that's a little bit about me. And as I mentioned, we can welcome other members as they join us. I'm sure we'll have some others that will join us over the next half hour or so. Now that we've done introductions, if you look at our agenda, we also have a little bit of overview of operations of the committee. So you may have received a link from, I should also introduce Julie Jones, who's our analyst. She's on this Zoom meeting with us, as well as Avery, our clerk. She's on as well. She'll be facilitating our Zoom meetings and helping us in lots of ways, getting out materials, our schedule, our agendas. And if you have any questions about any of the aspects of the committee, feel free to reach out to Avery. She'll be working here in the committee room. And also feel free to reach out to myself or Representative Terry. We've both been in the legislature for a few terms. And if you have any questions about the taxation committee, or for the new members have any questions about the legislature and the House and Senate and how things work here in Augusta, feel free to contact us anytime. I'm always available to talk to members of the committee. If you have questions about a bill or anything like that, always happy to help. So we did get a link from Julie in our materials that were sent out to the committee rules of procedure. And I'm not going to go over all of them. You feel free to read them over as you want. I just want to highlight a couple of areas. One about the chair presiding over the meeting. So if you have any questions that you want to ask during the course of a meeting, or want to bring something up or speak, please direct questions like that through either Representative Terry or myself. And there's for the Zoom meetings, there's I believe a place to raise your hand in the bottom, a place where you can click on reactions and raise your hand, and we can see that and call on you. There's also a chat box if you want to send something out to everyone on the meeting. Feel free to do that through the chat feature on the Zoom meetings. For quorum, we need to have 7 members for quorum and must have at least 1 senator. We have quorum now. Technically, I guess we have 7 members, so we barely have quorum. But generally speaking, I guess we'd ask that you please try to attend all of our meetings. And if you can't attend a meeting, to notify the committee clerk so we know who to expect to be here. And if we're going to be short quorum, so we can reach out to some members to make sure we have our quorum requirement met. And other than that, I mean, the other things are more pertinent to the committee room, I guess. So, and some other minor things in our rules of procedure, but feel free to read those over as we get doing more work. We'll be scheduling public hearings and we'll have work sessions and things like that. But for today and Thursday, we're just going to be doing orientation. So with that, I guess we can jump to number 2 on our agenda, overview of the role of committee. Representative Terry, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, all set. I'm looking forward to hearing Julie's presentation. Julie is she knows everything about taxation. If you have any questions about anything, I think Lori can attest to that, having known her before we did. She's the tax queen.
It's way too much of a buildup. It's a reputation I can't live up to. I do not know everything. Let me put that disclaimer out. But first of all, I am your committee analyst. I am located in the Office of Fiscal and Program Review, as you can see from the background behind me. It's not painted on a wall. It's actually an electronically created background. I had to get somebody to teach me how to do this. I am by no means a Zoom expert. One thing I have learned is that all of us, from legislative leadership on down to all of us, are in the process of learning how this new world is going to work. There's a long-standing, long-developed process for the way the legislature worked in the 129th and previous sessions, and almost everything has changed for the 130th, given that we are now working remotely. So we are all having to be patient with one another as we move along. And I will also request your patience as I bumble through trying to do this, because this is the first meeting at which I have shared information. And hopefully we'll make it all work okay. And I won't click on an X somewhere along the way that'll make something go away and I'll have to start all over again. A little bit about my background. I'm a Bangor girl, born and raised. I sort of like to occasionally tell stories about myself. I've been here for so long that I have granted the privilege of telling an occasional story. This is very brief. I'm a high school classmate of Jock McKernan and a law school classmate of Janet Mills. I don't know, I have not graduated from any other schools, so I guess nobody else that I graduated with will become governor. Although I suppose there could be other members of my high school or law school class. Oh no, I graduated from the University of Maine at Orono, where I was almost a classmate of Stephen King, 1 year off. But I did know his wife. She wasn't his wife then, Tabitha, but I did know her. We had a mutual friend. Anyway, that's me. I won't say more about it. I have worked for the legislature for a very long time. You can tell from who I graduated with that I'm not a young person. I've been with I've never been in private practice as an attorney. My first job out of law school was working for legal services for the elderly, where I worked for a few years before moving to legislative staff. You usually hear, those of you who have been on other committees are familiar with your OPLA analyst. I am not an OPLA analyst, I'm an OFPR analyst, but I do everything an OPLA analyst does. And it's just that for some reason, the legislature many years ago decided they wanted this position located in the fiscal office rather than in OPLA. But it's basically the same job. I have also on occasion, I actually, when I started, I started first working in OPLA, staffing the Taxation Committee. 1981 was when I started. At that point, the Taxation Committee was staffed out of OPLA. I have also worked in the revisor's office for a few years. I felt the need to move around a little bit, so I did that. And I've also spent 3 years as an independent self-employed consultant. So I've been a small business for a very short period of time myself. The role of the committee analyst, for those of you who don't know, I mean, there's a few of you who have not been here before, or not been legislators before, is to provide the committee with the information that will hopefully be helpful to you in making your decisions on bills or other issues that are before you. And then once you've made your decision, to draft language, whether it's a committee amendment or a committee report, which reflects the decisions that you've made in a way that the people who have to administer that legislation or deal with that report know what it was that you intended. So that's kind of what we do, and that can involve a very wide range of activities in order to get information to you. There are more details in the, I refer to it as a notebook. The materials that I sent out to you look to me like a ring binder. Ooh, that does strange things to the light. I don't know if it does it when you're looking at it, but when I'm looking at it, it does. It is online. One of the instances of the new electronic world we're in is that there is an effort to try to avoid the duplication of so many things on paper. So it's not going to be in an individual ring binder for each of you. It will be online. Before I go to that though, which I'm going to kind of lead you through, hopefully not too lengthy version, but in order to communicate with me, the best way is email. There's information in the orientation materials on how to contact any of the staff people that in this office that you might need to communicate with. That's easiest because I'll always have my email on pretty much. With the remote work, we've been working, people in my office and most other staff offices have been working mostly remotely, which means we take our laptop home with us. We have access through our laptop at home or wherever we're working to the legislative system. So I happened to be in the office this morning, but I could be doing this just as easily from my home. So calling the phone number in the office may not be the best way to reach me. I have put my cell phone number into the notebook materials. So you'll have my cell phone, which is usually with me, but sometimes I get up and leave the room for an hour and forget to take my phone with me. So that doesn't always work either. But those are also possible ways. What I'm going to do is, hopefully with permission and my recollection. Oh, no, I want to mention two other people who have not been introduced yet, and they will, well, at least Suzanne will say something to you later on. Mandy Shorey, you see the unpictured Mandy Shorey box on there. Mandy Shorey is actually a senior secretary in my office, OFPR. She has been working over the summer and fall to assist the Appropriations Committee with its presence on in this new world, because they have had several meetings over the summer and fall, and the working out of all of that is something that Mandy has been involved in to a large extent. And she's working to the extent she's able with the clerks like Avery to assist them in this new task for them of getting these meetings going also. The other person is Suzanne Voynick, who is a fiscal analyst in our office. She is the person who works on the fiscal notes relating to the Taxation Committee and anything really relating to Maine Revenue Services, and a variety of other agencies. She works behind the scene. You won't see her too much in the committee, well, in the committee room. None of us are going to be in the committee room. You won't see her too much on the screen. She will be with us when we talk about budget. And if a fiscal note on a bill is a particular issue, she may show up in those meetings as well. She's always available. She may be listening a lot, even if she's not showing up on the screen. And I have noticed that Representative Collins has joined us. So if Senator Chipman wants to let him know he can introduce himself now, then maybe that would be a good time.
Sure. Representative Collins, you introduce yourself to the committee. Tell us a little bit about your district you represent and a little bit about yourself.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Senator Chipman. Good morning to members of the committee and staff and anyone else who's participating. I'm Representative Benjamin Collins. I represent District 42, which is a part of Portland. In Portland, we refer to it as the East Deering part of Portland off Peninsula. This, I guess, officially is my first day in a committee for my third term as a legislator. I've served in the past on the Transportation Committee and the Insurance and Finance Committee, and want to thank you for facilitating this meeting this morning and look forward to learning more about how the Taxation Committee operates.
All right. So are you, is that complete your overview, Julie?
Well, no, I'm going to share screen. This one. I'm reminding myself how to do this. Well, okay. Okay. Are you seeing the legislative webpage on your screen now?
We're seeing a picture of the coast of Maine, it looks like.
It's very
Looks like the coast. It looks like the ocean anyway.
No, that is my.
looks like that's your desktop.
Okay.
You need to make that full screen.
Mandy's helping me now. What's that?
Now go back to Zoom. This is why. It's got to be over here.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Make it big.
Where's the screen thing?
No, don't touch anything there.
Okay.
How does that look to them now?
Okay. Do you see the legislative webpage
Yes.
on your screen now? Okay. I guess I've appropriately shared that. Okay. I'm working from my laptop because my laptop has a camera. So when I look at the camera on my laptop, it looks like I'm looking at you, but I have to bring up the website on the screen, on my large screen, which is not my laptop. So I'm going to be going back and forth like this. But you'll be looking at the screen right now, so you won't be offended that I'm not looking at you while I'm talking.
Yeah, that's okay.
You're all familiar now, I'm sure, with the Maine legislature's web page. This is going to become a much bigger portion of your life now. You'll notice up here in the middle, next to the dome, there is a link for committees. You may or may not have used this very much before. If I click on that, it will take me to committee information, drop down, taxation committee, and you'll get to the taxation committee webpage. Some people aren't even aware that such a thing exists. There's a committee page for every committee. And you'll see this is the taxation committee, lists the Avery, the committee clerk, location, and an email link. These links over here are going to be very important ones to you. I'll just scroll down briefly a little bit. You'll see your names are here, the schedule's here, and all committee papers. This is kind of hidden. You have to kind of look for it. There's an arrow over here on the left where you drop down and it will list all bills that are before the committee. So that's what that all committee papers is. We go back up to the top. There's a few things up here that will be important. There's a link to live audio. You're probably not going to need this unless well, you may if you just want to participate with audio. There's the YouTube channel, which is how members of the public will be able to view the committee meetings.
Interrupt you, Julie.
Yeah.
People are having a hard time seeing it.
Yeah, it's a little large.
That, so it's just smaller. No.
Julie, if you zoom out at the bottom of your screen, you should see an opportunity for you to zoom out, zoom in or out. It looks like you're probably at about 150%. You want down to about 100.
Don't close it.
What am I? Oh, this.
Don't close it. Zoom out.
I want you to go over here to where that gear is.
Oh, yes. Click.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this where I want to go to?
Yeah,
75?
go to 75.
Maybe a little smaller.
Oh, this is the thing where
Yeah.
you can't. Ooh, no.
Well, ask them how it looks because
Well, how does this look to you now?
It's
Still
still,
big.
yeah, it's still too big, yeah. Maybe you can
because
go
you're
down-
on this screen. If you were on that screen, it wouldn't be so big.
And I can't minimize it. No, that doesn't. It doesn't work.
No.
What if I move this over there?
Yeah, go ahead. The only problem is, see, Julie,
I can't.
no, it's still here. This box is your sharing box. There you go.
I still can't click on anything over here though.
Yeah.
Because you moved it.
Well, but I thought it was if they were both in the same place.
No, because it's not green. It has to be green. I'll be right back. I gotta grab my laptop.
It's actually a little bit better, Julie, because we can see the new stuff that's on there, the committee materials, committee mailing list and testimony stuff. We couldn't see that before.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't, the location of the screen, apparently the idea of having the laptop and the separate screen is not working with Zoom. And I was not aware that that would happen. I may have to let you maybe hear from someone else, from Suzanne briefly, because she's going to tell you a little bit about what fiscal analysts do and what our office does as well, while I maybe get off of the two screens and reopen with just my laptop. I was saying I need to just reopen with just my
Yes.
laptop.
That probably would be
Okay.
better.
Okay. First of all, got to get rid of that.
Stop sharing.
Stop
Over here.
Stop sharing. I'm stopping sharing.
There we
Okay,
go.
I stopped. Oh, that's good. Okay, Suzanne, I hate to ask you to fill in for me for a few minutes, so people, unless you want to take, the committee wants to take a break, either way, but I need to take a 5-minute break or so to get my hardware set up correctly here. So I'm going to exit right now.
Sounds good.
What do you think, Representative Terry? Should we take a 5-minute break or?
Because we have some folks that need to leave, I would love it if Suzanne, if you're okay with that, jumping in.
Okay, so we'll go to agenda item number 4, an overview of the role of fiscal analyst with Suzanne.
Okay.
Winnick.
So I'm going to attempt to share my screen and see if this works out. I do have a screen on, same as Julie, so I'm going to try to turn that off. If I can, well, whatever. So if this doesn't work, I'll just talk. So this is the document. Don't worry about reading this. I'm not going to read this document to you. I'm just going to show it to you. It's an overview of OFPR. I work in the same office as Julie does. I'm the fiscal analyst. And this just gives you a few things about what we do. We staff the Appropriations Committee and the Taxation Committee. Obviously, that would be Julie. I also work with the Transportation Committee, and I staff that part of the committee that deals with the highway fund budget and the pieces of the general fund budget that apply to that particular committee. We also staff the revenue forecasting committee. There is the director and the fiscal note coordinator are on that committee. We analyze bills, we perform fiscal notes, monitor fiscal information, and staff, appropriations with the budget information. On our website, there are some if you get into the website that Julie showed you and you go into the staff Office of Fiscal and Program Review, you can find the compendium of state fiscal information. It gives you some detail about all the major revenues. It also provides expenditure and revenue information. There's also a report on funding distributed to municipalities. There's a document called the budget process, and there's also one called the fiscal note process. The next document talks about your role in the budget. We have the supplemental coming up. So you'll participate in a joint meeting with appropriations. That bill obviously sits with appropriations. But you will also work the particular portions of the budget that are applicable to taxation, and you'll make recommendations to the Appropriations Committee on whether you think the initiatives and the language pieces, if any, that apply to taxation should be included in the budget. Determining what happens with the budget really rests with the Appropriations Committee. But what I've found is that the more unanimous the committee can be in recommending things to the Appropriations Committee, the more they're apt to say, yes, we agree. This talks about fiscal notes. We're required per the rules to do fiscal notes on every single amendment, committee amendments, and floor amendments. Whether you have one report from the committee or 4 reports, we required, except if it's ought not to pass, but we're required to do a fiscal note and present that. We try to do them for the original bills. There's not always enough time. Right now, we're going to be taken up with supplemental budget work. So, and then all of these, I'll go back. All of these documents are included in the link that Julie provided to you. So if you want to reference any of them. There's also something else you should know, since taxation, many of your bills will be tagged for the Appropriations Committee. Once a bill is passed in the House, once it goes over to the Senate, before enactment, the Senate Chair of Appropriations, which is Senator Breen, will, if it has an impact on general fund revenue or general fund appropriations, she will flag it to be put onto the appropriations table. And so it sits on the appropriations table until the end of the session, unless appropriations decides to take it up sooner. And then they review all of those bills to see if they can pass. And that's because in the Maine Constitution, our budget has to be balanced. So that is done so that we can make sure that the budget is balanced at the end of the fiscal year. So that's one other thing. The next, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about mandates. Mandates are in the Maine Constitution, as prohibits the state from requiring a local unit of government to expand or modify its activities so as to necessitate additional expenditures, unless the state provides 90% of the funding or the legislature votes to establish an exemption by a 2/3 vote. So when we do our fiscal note process, we'll evaluate the bill if there's an impact to municipalities, and we will indicate that it's potentially a mandate. And then the committee has a couple choices. You can add a mandate preamble. You can say we disagree, and you can write something into the committee amendment summary that says that you disagree. And those are usually set aside to the appropriations table as well. And then the appropriations committee, will determine what to do with it. So that's really all I have, unless anybody has a question.
Any committee members have any questions for Suzanne? Okay. I know Representative Gramlich needs to leave in 10 or 15 minutes. Do you have anything, Representative Gramlich? Any
That's
questions?
Suzanne.
Yep. Okay.
No, Senator, thank you. Actually, Suzanne, I had a quick question. What I thought I heard you say was that many of the tax bills that we
Yeah.
really might want to mute herself. Tax bills that are tagged for appropriations, does it matter whether or not those bills produce revenue, or do they just, regardless if they have any money kind of attached to it, it will automatically go to the appropriations table?
I'm not the person in our office that determines what goes to the appropriations committee. That's to the appropriations table, that's our fiscal note coordinator. And I have seen bills that generate revenue that have not gone to the table. They just automatically, since it's not hurting anything, the budget, it automatically gets enacted. Well, not automatically, but it goes through the process without being set aside.
I understand what you.
Typically, that's what happens, but I can't promise that that'll always happen because, I don't know, something might get treated differently for some other reason. I don't, but I don't determine that. But typically, I have seen that they just go through the process and are not set aside if it is generating revenue.
No, that's helpful. That does kind of validate what I was thinking. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Representative Gramlich, do you have any questions for Julie, since I know you have to leave in a few minutes from her presentation?
I don't think so, although I don't know what more Julie's going to present, but I'll loop back around to you, Senator, and to Representative Terry in terms of just follow up. And I will be, I have cleared my schedule. The reason I have to leave is I have a bunch of meetings scheduled with students for field placement that had been pre-scheduled, but I did clear my morning for Thursday, so I will be able to be with you for the full time on Thursday, but I'll loop back to you, Senator, and Representative Terry after to see if there's anything that I might have missed. But at the risk of sounding arrogant, I think I do know my way how to navigate through the system pretty well. And having spent a fair amount of time in the taxation committee, I feel comfortable, but I will definitely follow up with each of the chairs.
Okay, excellent. Is there any other questions from other committee members for Ms. Boynick? Seeing none. Thank you, Suzanne, for that presentation.
You're welcome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, she knew.
Thank you.
Before we go back to Julie, I think Julie's ready to start back with us. We did have another member join us, Representative Kryzak. So Representative Kryzak, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your district. I think you're muted, Representative Kryzak. Oh, okay. Well, we're not.
Hang on a minute. I'm trying to switch over to my computer.
Okay.
I just got back. All right. Well, I'm Ted Kryzak. I represent District 20, Acton, Lebanon, and part of Shapley. I apologize for being late. I thought we were starting at 10. And my COVID story is my business has been shut down for 8 months and I'm back to work, but I couldn't bring my employees back. So I had to drive students this morning before I could get on here. And I just got back into the house. So if you give me a minute, I'll get back onto the computer and then you'll be able to see me.
Okay.
Were you able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. We just can't see you, but we could hear you. Well, welcome. Glad to have you
just
back.
give me a minute.
Glad to have you back on the committee with us again. Representative Kryzak was served on Taxation Committee last session as well. He'll be in this session serving as the Republican lead for the committee for other committee members, so you know that. And we can come back to you, Ted, when we can see your video.
Just figured I'd stick around for a minute. Thank you. Yes.
So I guess we'll go back to Julie Jones and her overview of tax policy and some basic resources for the committee.
Thank you, and hopefully this will work again. And Mandy has the all-talented Mandy. I turned around and looked because she's behind me, but you can't see her. But she has been helping me do this, so I'm going to try again here. Sharing the screen.
Yeah. No.
Advanced.
Yeah.
Portion screen. Share. Okay, you got
No,
it?
it's still big. It's better though.
No, that looks good. I think we can see everything. It looks like everything's there.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and scroll up and down. Because what's in the box is what we see.
Okay. Oh, what's in the box is what you see. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay. So the committee page, I think, is what we were looking at. Oh gosh.
I don't think it went to the committee page.
It's on the committee page, but it's, I mean, it does it, it's showing.
I think it's just the top of the committee page.
If you take this, hold it and pull it over here.
Ah,
Let's see
okay.
if that does it for you.
Okay. So over here on the committee page, choose committee. Are you seeing me choose the committee now?
Yep, it looks like it. Yeah, Committee on Taxation.
Yes. So now it says Committee on Taxation. I have a box on my screen that tells me you're only seeing part of the screen. So if I move around the screen.
We're just seeing the top left-hand corner.
Right. Okay. Yes. So that's showing you the information. I don't know. Do I need to repeat what I said before? As you move down here, you see members.
You got to let go of it.
Schedule.
You got to let go of it for them to see.
Oh, okay. Members, schedule, all committee papers I mentioned.
Yep.
There's a drop-down arrow over here, which will show you the LDs that have been referred to committee. There were only 4 so far.
You gotta let go of it.
Mandy
Sorry.
keeps reminding me to let go of my mouse because I'm poised to move on to something else. So I will try to remember to do that.
Sorry.
No, she's apologizing now. Anyway, going back up to the top again. Whoops. Over here on the right-hand side. Actually, shoot. Okay. Directory of Joint Standing Committees is going to give you a list of all committees with their chairs, their clerks, their phone numbers, their analysts. If you ever need to know that information for another committee, it's there. A mailing list takes people to the list where you can subscribe. Does that work? Testimony submission is for members of the public who want to submit testimony for a public hearing. Live audio is to listen to the audio the way you used to do in the past. YouTube now, if I click on YouTube,
It's gonna give feedback
it's going to give feedback.
if it comes up and starts playing. Okay, it won't stop playing. Okay.
Will take you to the YouTube page for the Taxation Committee. Every committee has its own YouTube page now, and a member of the public who wants to listen to the current meeting's not on there for some reason, I don't think,
It's already streaming.
because it's already streaming. But the meeting for Thursday is on there now, so people who are not part of the Zoom meeting will be able to view it. The YouTube broadcasts are being archived, so if you want to listen to a committee or view a committee proceeding meeting that you couldn't attend, you'll be able to do that through the YouTube archive function. Okay, maneuvering around again now. Whoops. I lost the page. Back, I need to go back.
Way to the back.
There we go. Going over here again, committee materials. If you click on committee materials, you go to a page for the 130th Taxation Committee information, which is currently located on the OFPR webpage. So you can see over here, oops, no, you're not seeing that. I keep needing to move. You see over here, it says a welcome to the Office of Fiscal and Program Review. That's because the Taxation Committee page, which is what you're on, is located in that place. But probably the easiest way to get to it for you all is from that committee page, which I think you'll be using a lot more. On that page, there'll be a lot more there as we go along through the session. We're still in the process of creating how this is going to look. You'll see there's monthly calendar. And if I click on monthly calendar, you'll get a copy of the calendar, the calendar that I sent you by email. With meetings on it. Every time the calendar gets updated, you will be emailed a copy of the calendar and it will be posted on the website. The date when that calendar was created is located here and circled at the bottom of the calendar. So you'll know which one was the most recent.
Julie, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, absolutely.
So that date felt very important when it was a paper calendar for sure. With this, with us checking on this electronically from now on, will that date mean as much, or will it keep updating no matter what's on, no matter what happens? So the old stuff will not be there anymore.
The date will change any time that I print the document, and I print the document when I give it to Mandy, who is also our web guru, who is the person who posts all these things on the web for me. So every time there's a new calendar, the date will change.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Why won't that go away? anyway. Okay, so it's showing the meetings for next week. The thing that's called bill status summary on here is something I need to change the name of, but I haven't quite come up with the best name for it yet. It's a chart that I prepare. This one prepared on January 15th, which lists all bills referred to committee. Oh, geez. I have to keep remembering to let go of the mouse. So you can see that there are 4 of them. It will have the public hearing date, the work session date, when they're set, sponsor, title, summary. Right now, this is just a summary from the actual bill. I will adjust this column over here so it's more concise. And if you've had a public hearing and some issues are raised, or you've had a work session and some questions have been asked, those will be mentioned over in this summary period too. So this one, the date on this one is always going to be the date that's up here. That'll be the date when it was I can't remember to let go of the mouse. And so the date will be up here. That will be the date that it was prepared, the date that the information is current for. And it will usually, for instance, after a work session, I go through this chart and update for all the bills that you worked for that session. It also has a fiscal impact column over here. When we get fiscal information on bills, it will be posted over here as well. And for those of you who have not been on the committee before, what I have done in the past is when there's a public hearing or a work session on 5 or 6 bills usually, I will go through to this document that has all the bills, pull out the ones that you're hearing or working that day, and had a paper document to hand out to you in committee room that had those bills on it. I'm still trying to think about how that's going to work in the electronic age, but I will probably be aiming to do something like that. So you'll have something for each work session and public hearing that kind of reflects the current status of those bills for that day.
So Julie, I just have a question. See, will you send
Yep.
us all an email with like an attachment of this calendar and attachment of the bill status and summaries and that kind of thing? Or will we have to go to this webpage to look for things?
I can send you a link to this. I can email you a link to this page. It will always be available from that committee taxation, and then you'll be committee materials. So it will always be on that page if you want to find it, but I will also email you a link to this page so you can save it and link directly to this page, if that would be useful.
Well, I'm just wondering, like in the past, in the committee room, you'd hand out a calendar, and when changes were
Yes.
made, you get a new calendar.
Oh.
I understand the need to do things differently now because we're all working remotely, but I guess what would be helpful for me and maybe for other members is if a new calendar comes out or changes are made, if you could email us and either have a link to it or have it attached to the email so that we're aware of that, so we don't have to keep going and checking the page to see if changes were made, just so that it's more, something we're going to pay attention to if we get an email with a new calendar or with updated changes or something like that.
Yes, I would be emailing you. It would be my plan to email you that when it's prepared for each work session or public hearing.
Okay.
In fact, you probably, I know some legislators are very, pay a lot of attention to their email, and some legislators do not pay too much attention to their email, but it's going to be important, especially this year, to pay attention to your email, because that's how you're going to be receiving almost all, if not all, of your information about bills in public hearings and work sessions. The testimony will come to you that way. It won't come to you on a piece of paper the way you've gotten it in the past. It'll come to you in an email. If Maine Revenue Services is providing information to you, they will be providing it in an email. So everything's going to come in an email. Hopefully, a lot of it will also be available online, and information that I receive will be in some way posted on this page under the materials. You know, you'll notice right now here, there's an agenda for today's meeting there, and there's the Taxation Committee orientation. I'm not even sure what that is anymore.
It's your book.
It's the book. Okay, it's the one that I've gotten into from this page. So there are many ways to actually access the information. Committee materials. Have I not gotten to this yet?
Yep.
Okay, committee materials, Taxation Committee orientation. This is, oh, is there a way to get more of it in that box? Andy?
No, because that's, they only want it to be this size. You have to make your screen smaller.
And then they won't be able to see it?
No, they will. No, not that way. Grab your screen and make it, no, you got to get to the edge. There you go. There you go. Keep going. Now move your box. Move your green box. There you go.
That's
Perfect.
better. Now more of it, hopefully more of it appears on your screen now.
Perfect.
Okay. So that's the cover sheet. It has my name and Suzanne's and our
Are you gonna go
email.
through the book now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going down.
Okay. Table of contents, committee information, a list of taxation committee bills, ongoing committee. Oh, I'm gonna just go through these. Contact information. This is the place where you'll see me and Suzanne Voynick, my work phone number and my cell phone number, and also the information for the clerk. Then there's a list of all the committee members with your email addresses. Subject matter jurisdiction is the bills that would ordinarily seen referred to the Taxation Committee. So bills relating to the Bureau of Revenue Services, State Property Tax Review Board, state and local taxes, tax exemptions and credits, tax relief programs, property valuation assessment, tax increment financing, municipal revenue sharing, which sometimes surprises people, but it's under your jurisdiction as the Taxation Committee, taxation of the unorganized territories, and tree growth and current use issues. Then the next thing that's in this booklet is a list of all of the LRs that have been submitted this session, which are indexed to the Taxation Committee. They're sorted, and the tax over here in the upper left-hand corner indicates that they're for the Taxation Committee. They are then, when the requests are submitted, they're indexed by the revisor's office. So you'll see the first major category there is estate tax, then you'll see income tax in the middle of the page. Under that, there's a minor subject. Again, these are done by the revisor's office. They're not tax experts, so sometimes, well, almost all the time, 90% of the time, these are accurate. Maybe 5% of the time, they may have gotten something wrong, but there is a list of these bills in here. It goes on for a long time. I'm just going to scroll through quickly. I'm not going to talk about any of that. Getting there. Okay. Following that, there is a list of reports that are due to the Taxation Committee. There are a lot of annual reports due to the Taxation Committee, and there's a list of the reports, who makes the report, who it's submitted to. Sometimes it's to other people as well as tax, the due date, the frequency annually in most instances. Sometimes it's odd numbered years, sometimes it's otherwise. Latest received copy, when the next one's due, and I tried to categorize them. You may want to look that over just to get an idea. There's a lot of reports on there. Some of them originated 10, 20 years ago, and nobody pays any attention to them anymore. One of the things you might want to do at some point is think about whether you want to be receiving all those reports or not. Sometimes agencies forget, as the leadership or employees in the agency change, sometimes they forget that they're supposed to submit this report, so some of them just stop showing up occasionally. When a report comes, you will be sent an electronic copy of the report, and we're probably going to have a link on the committee materials page for those reports as well. We have not done that in the past generally, but ordinarily there would be paper copies which would be handed out to you in the committee room. Since that's not going to be working anymore, an electronic folder is probably the way to go. Copied in here from the presiding officers are the model committee rules of procedure. At some point, they'll want the committee to adopt rules. We're not going to talk about them today, but they're in here if you want to look at them. And the committee will need to adopt things. The Senate and House chair sign off at some point, and then the speaker and the president sign off on any changes you want to make. There's an addendum provisions which specifically relate to the changes for this session because things are being done so differently than they have been in the past. And I'm sure that the chairs will want to put it on the agenda at some point for you to adopt the rules, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. Following that, there's a lot of stuff here. I feel like I'm talking an awful lot and I'm probably talking too fast, but I'm trying to get through it quickly. Following the rules, there are a number of materials that are prepared by legislative staff about the legislative process and the offices that are involved in it. I'm not going to talk about any of this very much. One of them is the page that Suzanne talked about with you about what fiscal analysts do. There's one for what committee analysts do, flow of legislation, frequent questions, Office of Policy and Legal Analysis. You can probably read me into that. I do the same kinds of things that they do. OPEGA, bills, fiscal notes, Government Evaluation Act, how to read a bill, Freedom of Access Act, which is important to your proceedings, which are all public, and to the extent that you know that you have a proviso on your email system that says anything that people send you is public information. There's a provision on the testimony that it's public information. Legislative confidentiality basically means that anything that you provide to nonpartisan legislative staff is governed by a confidentiality policy adopted by the Legislative Council. Anything that you say to me privately, if you want me to draft an amendment for you or research an issue for you, any of those things are confidential information. I won't share them with anyone else unless you authorize me to do so. So sometimes you may get an email from me or a phone call saying, I need to ask Maine Revenue Services, is it okay if I talk to them? Or sometimes you may want to know a fiscal note, a fiscal impact, and I would ask that question of Suzanne. Suzanne may need to contact Maine Revenue Services to ask them some questions. So we may need to get back to you and say, is it okay? Documents, anything in writing becomes public information when it is distributed at a public meeting. So if you ask me to do a draft and it gets distributed, it gets you hand it out to the committee members in a public meeting, it's public at that point. Anyone can get a copy of it. But there's more detail there. Information about state mandates, studies, carryover bills, major substantive rules, information about the committee's role in budget matters. I'm not sure, Suzanne, did you talk about budget?
I did, Julie.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you know you'll be involved in that soon, actually, because next Monday is the public hearing for the supplemental budget, supplemental emergency budget, which means it's something that needs to be done for the current fiscal year. It will include information with regard to income tax conformity, which I'll talk about in a second, which will relate to the 2020 tax year, which people are going to start filing on very soon. So it needs to be done quickly. Tax-related provisions of the Maine Constitution. The Maine Constitution, for most people, is a relatively obscure thing. It does, however, have a number of tax provisions in it. that are important to the Taxation Committee, and they are copied here. Article 1, Section 22 says no tax or duty shall be imposed without the consent of the people or their representatives in the legislature. What this means is that your municipality can't just go out and create its own sales tax on lodging, because the Constitution says only the legislature can create a tax. We sometimes have questions about local option taxes. Can we make a tax a local option? Interestingly, the Maine Supreme Judicial Court, which we usually refer to as the law court, has not issued a ruling directly on that issue. There was a somewhat confusing ruling that they issued as with regard to the city of Portland, which tried to adopt a property tax benefit payment. That is a very confusing decision, but it's they have not specifically ruled on the issue of whether there can be a local option tax if the legislature authorizes it. We know there can't be without the legislature authorizing it, but this question of whether the consent of their representatives in the legislature is satisfied by the legislature permitting something to happen by local option. I may not talk about it. I'm not going to talk about all of these very much, but Article 4, Part 3, Section 9, either house may originate bills. Revenue bills must originate in the House. Senators out there, you cannot sponsor a bill to raise a tax. You may or may not know that already. If you try to put one in, the revisor's office will gently suggest that maybe you want to find a House sponsor for that. Occasionally one makes it through, and we deal with it. There's almost always a representative who will be willing to introduce a bill that a legislator wants to do to put their name on it. So it doesn't end up really being that much of a problem in the end. Article 4, Part 3, Section 23 was passed back in the late 70s when municipalities were getting concerned about all the property tax exemptions that the legislature was enacted, taking away part of their revenue source. So the legislature put forth a constitutional amendment, which was adopted to provide that for exemptions enacted after 1978, the legislature is required to reimburse municipalities for at least 50% of the property tax revenue loss. So things like the homestead exemption that you're familiar with, or veterans exemption, well, let me talk about homestead first. Enacted after 1978, the legislature reimburses municipalities for 70% this year, actually. So it doesn't have to, it can be more than 50, but it has to be at least 50. Veterans exemptions are an interesting example because the basis of property tax exemptions have existed long before 1978. Those do not need to be reimbursed, but if you add new categories of veterans or increase the amount of the exemption, you will have to reimburse for 50% of the revenue loss. So that's sort of a hybrid version. Municipalities required to value property at least every 10 years. Article 9, Section 8 is probably the thing that the provision of the Constitution that needs to be addressed the most in bills that you receive. It provides that all taxes upon real and personal estate, ancient language going back to the 1800s when Maine first became a state, but it means real and personal property, assessed by authority of the state, shall be apportioned and assessed equally according to just value. First of all, by authority of this state means that there are a whole lot of provisions in state law that say that property is going to be taxed, and this is how municipalities are going to do it. So the legislature has told municipalities how it does property tax. The most difficult issue becomes the apportioned and assessed equally according to just value. Just value's a complicated term, but it essentially means the market value of the property. It has to be based on just value. Not all municipalities use 100% of just values. Sometimes they use 80%. Sometimes their assessments are 7 or 8 years old and are no longer accurate. The value of property may have gone up a lot since then. But as long as the municipality is using the same standard for all property in the municipality, that's fine. Some states, for instance, create classes of property. They may say residential property, we're going to value at 50%. Commercial property, we're going to value at 100%. Farms, we're going to value at 20%. But you can't do that in Maine. They all have to be assessed at full just value. Assessed equally means that it has to be the same throughout the state. So even if you're going to enact an exemption, you can't enact an exemption that's, I don't know, just for service center municipalities or just for Lewiston. It would have to be apply across the whole state. And what this also means is that you can't have local option exemptions. So you can't tell municipalities if they want to exempt farms from taxation entirely. You can't do that. The exemption has to apply statewide. This is according to decisions by the law court. The Constitution does have some exceptions, though. An old one provides that intangible property, the legislature can levy a tax on an intangible personal property at such rate as it deems wise and equitable without regard to the rate applied to other classes of property. Intangible property basically means like stocks and bonds, things that don't have a physical existence, but have a monetary value. In the 70s, the legislature enacted something, an amendment to the Constitution, or an amendment to the Constitution was adopted, providing that certain types of land could be based upon the current use of the property. That you currently have probably heard that referred to as tree growth taxation, farm and open space law, and there is also a provision with regard to working waterfront property. What current use means is that the municipality has to value it according to its use as farmland, not what it would be for a 10-house housing development. And it's farm and agricultural lands, open space lands, lands for game management and wildlife sanctuaries, which I don't think we have anything specifically for those. Waterfront land that supports commercial fishing activities. I'm not going to talk about the other things because they're not really very relevant right now. Article 9, Section 9, the legislature shall never in any manner suspend or surrender the power of taxation. So you can't decide, say you want, I'm going to use farms as examples a lot, that you want the Department of Conservation, Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry to determine what the tax should be on farms. That you're going to let them do it now. You can't do that. You can't, for instance, come up with, and it's also this one that comes, this provision, which becomes relevant when you're talking about a local option tax. Again, the law court has not ruled on local option taxes, really. So we don't know whether the legislature is suspending its power of taxation when it tells municipalities they can adopt a local option tax. It's provided that the tax can exist, but it's ultimately the municipality's decision. We don't know. What we generally do, because we frequently get a lot of bills in taxation committee that relate to local option sales tax issues. Meals and lodging is particularly popular as a suggestion for local option. We generally, in a work session, I would generally bring that up. We don't know if you can do this or not, but we don't know you can't do it. So if you want to go ahead and try, there's no one who's going to stop you. Article 9, Section 19 is the provision saying all fuels, fees, excise tax licenses from registration, operation of use of vehicles on the public highways and fuels for the propulsion of vehicles goes to the highway fund. So all that money goes to the highway fund. One of the incidents of that is that, for instance, bills relating to gas tax do not usually come to the taxation committee. Every once in a while, one will slip through, but they don't usually. They usually go to the transportation committee since they're the committee that does the budget bill for the highway fund. And sometimes taxation committee gets something that relates to a fuel tax issue, but not too often. I'm not going to talk about state mandates right now, but except to say that it basically provides that the legislature is going to require municipalities to spend money that for a new activity that the legislature has to provide some reimbursement or fund them. So if it's something may come up as a mandate in a bill, if you're requiring municipality to engage in activity, which is going to require them to spend some money, then you'd either have to decide whether you want to fund 90% of it, or it would have to be adopted by a 2/3 vote to get out of the mandate requirement. Okay, substantive issues, major issues. The property tax, the sales tax, and the income tax are the major ones. There's information in here about property tax, the assessed and collected locally stuff, property tax exemptions. There's a list generally of what property tax exemptions exist. Property tax relief programs, property tax fairness credit. I'm not going to go over all of these. Homestead exemption, business equipment tax reimbursement program, formerly known as Better, been replaced now by what is usually referred to as the Betty program. It's the business equipment tax exemption, tax increment financing, which although it's under the jurisdiction of this committee and you are generally referred legislation relating to it, it's administered by DECD essentially and municipalities. There's information about current use valuation. And then we move on to sales tax. I should stop for a minute because I'm going really fast. Does anybody have any questions about what I talked about so far? Or if anybody just wants to go, you know, like this, I'll try to notice as well. Although.
Is it easier just to yell out if we have a question?
Yes. As far as I'm concerned, yes.
First off, I unfortunately might not be able to make the supplemental hearing with appropriations, and was just wondering, will we get something similar to sort of this as far as like an in-depth review of what happened at the hearing?
You'll get a copy of all the testimony that's provided at the hearing. The administration, as you probably know from other committees you've been on, when they come in and testify on the budget, because they're presenting the budget, it's their budget, they provide a lot of information. Maine Revenue Services is very good at providing very detailed information about the provisions that relate to taxes in the budget. So that information will be available to you. The chart that I showed you back at the beginning that had all the bills with the column for notes that I said that I would update, that is kind of my version of what some OPLA analysts do as bill summaries. No, not bill summaries. What do they call them? Bill analysis.
Yes.
Bill analysis that they hand out. I do not do bill analysis. I do the chart. And with the budget, that doesn't work so well. But what I will be preparing for you later this week, I started already, but it's nowhere near close to done yet, but it will be before Monday, is a chart which will show the taxation committee provisions that you'll be hearing, and it will have information in it about what they are. If there's background information that's not obvious from the statute, it will probably have issues to the extent that they're raised by Maine Revenue Services or others. But there will be a chart which will hopefully have most of that information in it. It won't be available before the hearing. Well, no, it will be available before the hearing, but the comments will not be available before the hearing, obviously, because they won't have been made yet. But yes, there will be a budget chart, which will have all the more detailed information about the budget for you later this week.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry to ask a bunch of questions, but just trying to catch up.
Yes. Okay.
Any other questions from other committee members? I guess we're okay for now.
Okay. Sales tax. There are currently there's currently a mistake in my materials because I said there are 3 sales tax rates in Maine and we've actually enacted a 4th one now. So it used to be that meals and lodging were the same amount. Now they're different amounts. And I neglected to change the 3 to a 4. 3. So 10% on the rental of automobiles for less than 1 year, 10% on adult use marijuana and adult use marijuana products, 9% on lodging, 8% on prepared food, 5.5% on everything else that's taxable.
So I have a question Julie, about that. So what about medical marijuana and what about alcohol? Are those all just taxed at 5.5% like any other sale?
Alcohol served at a licensed establishment, basically meaning, some places also serves food, restaurant, bars, anything that has to be licensed in order to serve alcohol, for you to drink there, is going to be taxed at 8%.
Okay.
I believe if you pick up your liquor at the Hannaford, that you will be paying 5.5%, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about medical marijuana? Is that just 5.5% because it's not?
I think that medical marijuana, oh, shoot. I'm forgetting now. I would have looked it up, but I forget whether medical marijuana is either taxed at the 5.5% or it's exempt.
I think it might be exempt.
I think it might. I
they're
think
redoing the rules right now.
Well, yeah. Well, they can't make it exempt or not exempt by rules. Only you as a legislature can do that. But I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you. I will send everybody an email because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's 5.5%, but I just wanted to check with you to see if you were aware of that. And then you're saying the only other one in here would be different is lodging and meals, because meals is 8% and lodging is 9%.
Yes. Frequently, people refer to the meals and lodging tax. What they mean is the sales tax on meals and lodging, because it's all under the sales tax, and technically it's a sales tax.
So food at a restaurant would be just taxed at the same as prepared food, 8%.
Yes. Prepared food has a lengthy, complicated definition. At a restaurant, they're going to be preparing food for you. There's issues with regard to takeout food, or I guess Hannaford, you can tell where I do my grocery shopping, can't you? Hannaford, I guess, is not preparing food anymore because of COVID restrictions. But before COVID abounded, you could get prepared sandwiches, prepared salads, and they were even starting to have pizza and stir fry you could pick up at the Hannaford before the COVID started. All those things are closed now, but those things are prepared food. And even though it's the Hannaford that's selling them, they would have to be charging the 8% tax on that because it's prepared food. There's also things like they're always, the typical issues have been if you buy a donut, it's prepared food. But if you buy a dozen donuts in a box, it's considered groceries. There are a whole variety of this borderline between what's a grocery and what's prepared food that can become complicated. Maine Revenue Services has a very lengthy rule with regard to that definition and guidelines that it provides to retailers so they'll know when they're supposed to charge tax on food.
Well, that opens up the whole issue, Julie, around just food in general, because, a few years ago, there was no food that was taxed. If you went to the grocery store and you bought items off the shelf, none of it was taxed. And then in order to balance a budget 5 or 6 years ago, we changed that so that certain foods were taxed and some aren't. So if you buy almonds that are roasted and salted, they're taxed. But if you buy raw almonds still in the shell, they're not taxed. It's just things like that. It makes it really, I think, complicated for the average person to understand sometimes, what's taxed and what isn't on food. But that's something that we did, I think, 6 years ago to help balance the budget at the time.
If people are interested in food, I can send a link to the Maine Revenue Services information that they provide. Yes, I see one person who's interested. I will. I can't see, I don't have all of your pictures. I only have 5 at a time, one of which is me. So I'm not, so when people raise their hands, I'm I'm not seeing everybody's hand. I apologize for that. Um, so should I send it? Should I send it out?
That would be
It does
great.
get it does get very complicated. I mean, with regard to these roasted salted almonds, it may depend upon whether you're getting them from a dispenser or whether you're buying them off the shelf in a bag.
I think we're going to be seeing at least one bill that relates to this, Julie. So having that
Okay.
that list would be great.
Okay. I'm making a note. I will do that. Okay, tax base. The tax is based on sales of tangible personal property and taxable services. The services that are subject to the sales tax are lodging, rental or lease of an automobile or other vehicles, certain extended vehicle service contracts, transmission and distribution of electricity, prepaid calling arrangements. There used to be a number of other things listed under here like cable TV, which are now taxed under the service provider tax, which after mentioning that there are 106 sales tax exemptions, actually there are more than 106 exemptions right now, then I will move on to the service provider tax. The exemptions, there's more because in one of my historical lessons, 10 or 20 years ago, there was a member of the taxation committee who didn't want to see the number of sales tax exemptions get higher. So we started making things section 23A, 23B, rather than adding a new number on at the end. We've been adding new numbers on at the end for quite a while now. So, but you'll see, so the last number on the list is 106, but there are more than 106 exemptions because there are some in the middle that we're stuck in. Service provider tax was enacted in 2004 to provide a source of revenue specifically to be a match for Medicaid funding. What they did at that point, as you look down at this list of things that are subject to the service provider tax, the things towards the end of the list you'll look are all sort of medically related services. The money from those services, the medically related ones, goes to a special fund which is used to match Medicaid, federal funding for Medicaid purposes. The ones at the top of the list were things that were formerly under the sales tax: cable television, fabrication services, video equipment rental, furniture rental, telecommunication service. Your telephone is not, it's a tax, it's a service provider tax. Installation, maintenance, and repair of telecommunications. The revenue from those items, which are not medically related, goes to the general fund, just like sales tax does. One thing to note is the service provider tax is 6% rather than 5.5%. So they're paying a little bit more. There's a long story to that too, but it's confusing and I'm not sure I understand it. So I'm not going to talk about that, but just to say that is in fact true. Income tax. The first and most important thing to know about the income tax in Maine is conformity. Maine's income tax is based upon the Internal Revenue Code to start with. So in Maine, in calculating individual income tax, we start from federal adjusted gross income. So people filing their returns, you probably know this if you've done it, are told to take line whatever from their federal return. That's the federal adjusted gross income. There are then Maine adjustments to that amount. So there are additional, what are usually referred to as deductions or exemptions, or sometimes additions to federal adjusted gross income that are made on the Maine return. The most common one, for instance, is Social Security benefits. On the federal level, most of Social Security benefits are exempt, but not all. If your income's over a certain level, you will pay some, you may pay some income tax on those benefits. In Maine, all Social Security benefits are exempt. So there has to be a subtraction made for the portion of Social Security benefits that are included in your income on the federal level. There are lots of other examples. What technically these things are referred to in Maine is they are called addition and subtraction modifications because they are modifications to federal adjusted income by adding things or subtracting things, but the subtractions are usually referred to as exemptions or deductions. In Maine, there are standard deductions and personal exemptions. After this page, there's a chart that's prepared by Maine Revenue Services that lists all of those things. There's indexing of tax brackets, so there's an adjustment every year to the tax brackets to adjust them for inflation. Numerous exemptions, exclusions, and credits, which I'm not going to talk about. Okay, this is the chart, state of Maine individual income tax rates, 2020 rates. This will show you the brackets in Maine, single persons, heads of household, and married joint returns. There's also personal exemption, standard deduction, additional amount for age and blind. So that information is there. It's also on their website, but it's in this, I copied it and put it into this booklet as well. The corporate income tax rates are also from Maine Revenue Services. So those are listed, the corporate rates. Other major business taxes is something that I have added in. There is a separate tax from financial institutions, which basically means banks, credit unions, that pay, they pay the financial institution tax instead of the income tax. Insurance companies also have a special tax, 2% of gross direct premiums, which they pay instead of income tax. Miscellaneous taxes, I'm going to go through pretty quickly. Motor fuel tax, but there is a lot of information in here. Do I hear Senator Chipman?
Sorry, I just lost internet service, but it looks like it came back.
Oh, okay. There is some information, a little bit of information in here on each one. It's not in any great detail. When we get to them, if we get to them, I'll be providing you more information. But motor fuel taxes, estate tax, alcoholic beverage taxes, which we don't generally get in taxation committee. They usually go to the Legal and Veterans Affairs Committee, but sometimes we'll get one if somebody wants to raise the tax on beer and wine. It usually goes to Legal and Veterans Affairs, Veterans and Legal Affairs, whichever way it is now. But sometimes we will get them. Cigarette tax bills we get. Real estate transfer tax bills we get. Railroad excise tax, mining excise tax. There are a variety of specific resource-based industry taxes. My particular favorite is the mahogany cohog tax. Bet you didn't know. Those bills fund particular activities. The first one on the list, the commercial forestry excise tax, funds 40% of the cost of forest fire protection, which is provided by the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. The blueberry tax, potatoes tax, mahogany cohog tax are industry taxes which go to fund only activities related to the regulation of those industries. They don't provide any money to the general fund. They are generally heard by the Agriculture Committee. Motor vehicle excise tax, we get those bills. Every year, there are one or more bills.
Just going to mention.
Yes.
Julie's just going to mention that I believe there's also some excise taxes on recreational marijuana that are already in place now that we may have to update this list to.
You're right. You're right.
I think it's 10% on sales and 10% on excise, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
I think it's 12% on excise.
Okay.
Another thing I'm not positive about, because that generally does not, well, I don't know whether it's going to be coming to this committee. That's in a state of development right now. I did mention the sales tax on marijuana, but I forgot to add in the excise tax. I was going to mention the motor vehicle excise tax. I will add it actually, and we'll repost this. The motor vehicle excise tax, they're almost every year, and this year is no exception. There are bills in to provide that the motor vehicle excise tax be based upon the sales price of the vehicle. It's currently based upon the maker's list price of the vehicle. The motor vehicle excise tax is a tax which is in lieu of property tax. Motor vehicles are exempt from property tax. Their property without an exemption and the motor vehicle excise tax, they would be subject to property tax. But instead we pay this. what happens is they establish maker's list price, so it would be equal. So if you own a 2015 Dodge minivan, it's going to have the same value, you know, regardless of what deal you made with the dealership. And then, and over the years, there's really no way of valuing them to make it a property tax. So it's based upon that maker's list price. The rate goes down every year in order to adjust for the fact that these things are depreciating. So it's 24 mils, quite a large amount in the first year. And by the 6th year, it's down to 4 mils. So it's 1/6 what it was in the first year. None of this is precise, but that's the way it's based. If you go to the actual sales price, it creates a lot of administrative difficulties for municipalities and how they're going to know what the sales price is, because not everybody buys from a dealership. Some people buy from their cousin. Some people buy from the person down the street. You don't always know. Anyway, you'll have bills to do that. We're almost to the end, guys. A little bit, there's a little bit of information in here. There information prepared by the Office of Fiscal and Program Review regarding state and local tax burden. What we've done is looked at state and local taxes, both as a percentage of personal income and as state and local taxes per capita, and gone through their historical comparisons. So you can see in here what it has been overall. This is, you know, all state and local taxes and all personal income in the state to get to these percentages. Following that, I put in here a whole bunch for just as examples of things, and because they may be of interest to you, state by state comparisons. There are lots of institutions which prepare lists of what the sales tax is in every state in the country, or a lot of things. There's a lot of them in here. I'm just going to scroll down through them. Some of them, there are a few in here that are maps, because that's sometimes an interesting way. So if you look at individual income tax rates, how high are they? They're going to show the highest rate. Maine is 7.15%. It'll show you what they are in every state. Then if you go through, this is a much more complicated chart of that similar information. What I usually do on any of these charts is go first to what they say about Maine. So in Maine, it's going to show you the tax brackets and the rates at which they apply standard deduction, personal exemption. So it shows that for every state. Frequently, I will find that there's something in here that it says about Maine that's not right. Hopefully, I think the ones that are included in here are actually right. Another map, corporate income tax rates, and a chart, state tax revenue, per capita percentage of personal revenue. So it's different ways of looking at the same thing. Anyway, there are a number of charts in here. It's not all income tax. There are other things for which we could also probably find comparisons, state and local sales taxes. Most states permit local sales taxes, Maine does not. So when you see comparisons of sales tax rates, what you really need to look at is this combined tax rate over here. So you look at Arkansas, you get 9.3%, and in Maine, you got 5.5%. But there may be a lot of, well, Arkansas, but okay, let's look at Colorado. The state tax rate is 2.9%, but they can have the average local tax rate is 4.6%, which comes to a combined 7.5%. So you may, if people are just looking at the state rate and they look at 2.9, it may look like Colorado's a lot lower than Maine. So it's important to take into effect the local rates as well. Maine's overall total is actually in the middle compared to most states. It's nowhere near the top. Cigarettes, liquor, beer, wine, tax expenditures. Tax expenditures are basically defined, it means state tax revenue losses attributable to provisions of Maine tax laws which allow a special exclusion, exemption, or deduction, or which provide a specific credit, preferential rate of tax, or deferral of tax liability. Basically, they're exemptions and credits in Maine, although there may be other things. The legislature at various times becomes particularly interested in tax expenditures as a category of expenditures. The way it's looked at, it seems like it's an unusual term that there's a tax expenditure. But what usually happens is that obviously when the Appropriations Committee reviews the budget, it's looking at actual expenditures, how much money the state's going to be spending. And the issue sometimes comes up, well, but we have all these tax credits and things, which in a way are expenditures because we're providing the person who has the credit with some money as a result of the credit or the exemption. So in the late 70s, the legislature decided to require the administration, when it submits a budget, to submit information about tax expenditures, these exemptions and credits. What you're seeing in front of you right now is actually the provision in the biennial budget, because that's where it's located, that has that information. They've provided an introduction, which is prepared by Maine Revenue Services, which describes how they calculate them. Then there are these charts. General fund income tax expenditures. So it goes through all of these tax credits and exemptions, and then it goes on to those are income tax. These are sales tax. There's a statutory reference. That's sort of how I can tell which are which fairly quickly. It lists for the current biennium and then the next biennium what those amounts are. And there's a number of other things in here as well, but you can see there's quite a few of them. About 5 or 6 years ago now, though, the legislature decided that it wanted more information about the way these things were working. They knew how much money was involved, but they didn't know if those credits were accomplishing the purposes for the credits. So they enacted a procedure which provides for the review and analysis of tax expenditures. That analysis is done by OPEGA, the Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability. There are two types of tax expenditures that are defined. One is called a expedited review. These are generally things like sales tax exemptions, which has been enacted pursuant to a broad policy, and which can't really be measured because the goal is for OPEGA to measure the effectiveness of the credits. And there may be some that for which there's no, food, for instance, it's expensive because there's a lot of food, but basically we're saying, it's an exemption for subsistence, for necessities. It's a necessity, it's a necessity. We're not providing an incentive for people to buy more food by the fact that we have an exemption, or trying to get more sellers of food into the state of Maine because they're exempt. So the statutes are in here for OPEGA and the Government Oversight Committee under which they work. I'm not going to go through all of those. We may at some time need to refer to them, but they are in here. Hold on just a second, because I made a note of something else I wanted to tell you. Anyway, one of the first things you may be doing before we get around to having a lot of bills to schedule is reviewing the expedited expenditures. OPEGA has a report every year on expedited expenditures. They're on a 6-year review, and we're on the 5th year now, I think. So there's one more year to go. OPEGA provides information to the Taxation Committee. They don't provide a full review because these are the ones for which there's really nothing to evaluate, but they provide you with a lot of background information about what the exemption does and what changes have been made to it over the years. So that may be one of the first things that we do. And as for other things, when you get to that point, I'll be preparing you background materials on those provisions, as well as the report that OPEGA will send over to you. In fact, they've sent that report already. I don't remember if I emailed it to you quite a while ago, but we'll make sure that you get the information that you need beforehand. Okay. Then we're really at the end now. At the end of the notebook, electronic notebook now, there are just some general materials that I included because they may be useful. NCSL prepares something called Principles of a High Quality State Revenue System, or I should say they have prepared it because it's more than 10 years old now. 2007. However, the principles are still relevant, and it's got a lot of good information. The principle, I'm not going to read these. You're tired of listening to me talk now, but it's good information in terms of if you're thinking about, for instance, sometimes you may be thinking about tax reform, and you may want to look at, well, what would a good tax system do? And what this is really something that's been put together basically by economists who look at taxes from the idea that the purpose of taxes is to be raising money to fund government services that the lawmakers want to fund, and then kind of goes from there on how do you create such a system. There's a lot of other things in here. It shows you comparisons of other states. At the end, useful publications. These are mostly things that are actually prepared, but in fact, they are things that are prepared by main sources. And there's something called the Compendium of State Fiscal Information, which actually paper copies are available for you on these because they're prepared by this office. And we haven't figured out how to not make copies of things yet. There's something called the major state funding to municipalities and counties, the tax expenditure report. The tax expenditure report is not prepared by OFPR. The tax expenditure report, I should have mentioned when I was talking about tax expenditures, but is another report which is prepared by Maine Revenue Services, which goes through all the things that are on the budget list, but provides more information on what they are. So the budget list is just a list with numbers. The report, which is usually referred to as the red book, and it will provide useful information on what the child care credit does. The other thing that's on here is the Revenue Forecasting Committee. Municipal Valuation Return Statistical Summary is prepared by Maine Revenue Services. It's property tax information that municipalities provide to Maine Revenue Services every year for purposes of creating the state valuation. There's a lot of information about property taxes in there. The committee provides summaries of bills at the end of every session. It's a summary of bills, amendments, and the laws enacted if they were enacted. Committee status of bills before the Taxation Committee is my chart that I prepare. And then the law library has compiled a list of Maine tax studies and reports that have been done over the years. I'm going to really quickly go back to Maine Legislative web page. Actually, no, I'm going to go to this one again. If this one that we came to go through to the Taxation Committee, because its home is on the Office of Fiscal and Program Review, in this left-hand column over here has other things that are provided by the Office of Fiscal and Program Review. For instance, the Appropriations Committee's page is over here too. So if I clicked on that, you choose by session. But anyway, in the publications, you'll see the compendium, the municipal funding report, and you'll also see the Revenue Forecasting Committee will have a place for its documents as well. So those things that are prepared by OFPR, you will also be able to access on the internet in this way. The Maine Revenue Services items are also available online, and we can provide links to those. I think I'm done. Am I out of breath? Thank you for your patience in listening to me.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Thank you very
Thanks,
much. It's a
Julie.
great overview. Is there any questions from members of the committee for Julie?
Yeah, I have one, Mr. Chair.
Go
Julie,
ahead.
on Thursday and the rest of the meetings, will we always be using this same sign on the Zoom? Or is there a different number every time we have a meeting?
There's a different number every time, and the committee clerk Avery will be sending you an email before the meeting, which will provide you with that link. I'm not sure if everybody got it, but this is one of the reasons why you need to pay careful attention to your email, because that's going to get the way that you're going to get your links to all your meetings is by an email link. If you don't have one the day before the meeting, you might want to give an email to me or Avery, and we'll make sure you get it. But it should, that's a process that we've gotten very used to now, at least. So that notice will go out, but it will be a different one every time for the Zoom link.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions from members of the committee for Julie? Doesn't look like we have anybody else has a question. Okay, well, great. Well, thank you, Julie, so much for that. It's a great presentation. Appreciate it.
If I could throw in there too, this was a lot of information, and the book is definitely something that you'll want to keep your eyes on every once in a while. But Julie, myself, and Ben can always answer any of the questions of the material that
brings us to our last agenda item.
Julie's gone through.
Yeah, and I just wanted real quickly too, because I forgot to say, do not hesitate at any time or any point to give me a call or an email. I'm happy to provide any information. If there are some of you that are new and you talk to each other and think, gee, I'd really like to know more about how this property tax stuff works, haven't thought about it before, I would be happy to, get together with a small group of you two on Zoom or however, or direct you to somebody else or provide materials, but don't hesitate. That's what I'm here for. It's my job, is to be a resource for you. I'm done. Sorry.
No, thank you, Julie. So I guess we don't have any additional questions. So that brings us to our last agenda item with our Avery page.
Hi, nice to meet you all virtually. I'm Avery. I'm going to be your clerk. This is my first time clerking. I have worked as Senate chamber staff in 2019, so you might recognize me from there, or at least from the glasses up if I look familiar. My role as the clerk for this session is going to be pretty similar to what a clerk would normally do. I'm going to be handling a lot of the paperwork, working with Julie to create the schedule and stuff like that. Probably the most significant change is going to be that I'm not going to be printing and copying things. That's going to be up to your aides to handle if you're going to be here and would like paper copies. Otherwise, most of it is going to be online and electronic. I live in Farmingdale, about 10 minutes from here, so I'm pretty local. I'm going into my last semester at USM. I'm going to be graduating with a bachelor's in communications and a minor in poli-sci. And on the side, I'm also a pet sitter, a big animal lover. I do a lot of dog sitting, dog walking, cat sitting, and stuff like that.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you, Avery. Any questions for our clerk, Avery Page? Doesn't look like we have any. If you do need any printing done, Avery touched on that item. Our staff on our offices, like the House Republicans, House Democratic offices, and the Senate offices, can print materials. So we've been asked to make those requests through those offices as opposed to through Avery. So I guess that concludes everything on our agenda. Is there any Representative Dowtry? Sorry, Senator Dowtry.
Thank you, Senator Chipman. And no worries, I keep getting my title wrong completely. I've introduced myself as Representative Daughtry so many times in the past month. Just quick question for Avery. Is the best way to reach you email or give the desk a call, or what's the best way if we have any questions?
Either one. Email's great though.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Avery's here, I believe, 5 days a week. So even though we'll
Right.
be meeting on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, she's here Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. So if you have things that come up on any day, any weekdays, she should be here and able to help. So
Yeah, clerks are some of the only staff right now that are in here full-time 5 days a week. So really anytime you should be able to reach me at the desk phone or through my email.
excellent. So I don't see any other questions from anybody. Is there any sort of miscellaneous items anybody would like to bring up at this time? And that concludes everything that's on our agenda. But if there's any other questions or items people want to discuss, this would be a good time to do that. Yeah, don't see anything. Okay, great. Well, I guess we'll conclude our orientation. Just want to remind members that we'll be meeting again on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock for day 2 of our orientation with the folks from Maine Revenue Services, here to present information to us about the work they do. And so we will look forward to seeing everybody at 9 o'clock on Thursday. And that concludes the meeting of the Taxation Committee.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
See you Thursday.